Okay, so I would also like to thank conference organizers for putting this together and having me present this research. This is a joint work with Robert White, who is a PhD student at Florida State University. And this study deals with the effect of feedback on the performance of charity auctions. Auctions are commonly used mechanisms to raise money for charities. And what happens in these auctions is that after the conclusion of the auction, the total price or revenue raised, and that is usually happens if an item has been donated for this auction, or some part of it to cover the costs of obtaining the item, is donated by auctioneer to a specific charity. The literature, which I'm going to skip for lack of time, mainly focused on two key components which are kind of theory motivated. One is who are the people who participate in these auctions and how this affects bidding. Because typically bidding in charity auctions by people who have preference for this particular charity earning money, they bid slightly differently. And we can assume different types of preferences, derive equilibrium and so forth. And studies have shown that depending on the type of preferences, this auction can lead to significant or small effect on price. And there's another string of literature that would compare different auction formats. What we are going to do is something different. We are going to fix an auction mechanism, and we are going to try to introduce some behavioral kind of component to an auction that potentially can change behavior for a given mechanism in a given population of bidders. So what we are going to do is we are going to introduce competition between different charities that subjects or bidders, by participating in this auction, have an option to raise money for. They don't have to choose the same. And we also will introduce competition between individual donors. So these are the two feedback types that we are going to try compared to the control treatment. And so we are going to introduce two modifications to charity auction design with the goal of increasing auction revenue. So as I mentioned, the first treatment is feedback on donations currently raised for each charity. There will be a number of them. And the second feedback is feedback on top individual donation levels. So first, I'm going to be referring as charity feedback, and the second, I'll be referring to as subject feedback, as treatment. And another kind of innovating, even though we're not the first to do this, but we conduct laboratory auctions where half of auction price is donated to an actual charity of subject's choice. So in the end of the session, in front of subjects, we go online and we donate in front of them online, and they know that. Actually, money that was raised to actual charities, they see it and they observe it. And what I see as an advantage in some of the auction studies, not necessarily charity, but in general, is that in laboratory auctions, we induce subjects' values. So we can actually test theory directly with less data than in the field, because we know when we know what theoretical price should have been, we can clearly see the deviations that happened because of that. In the field, sometimes we need more data to really discriminate. Is the price was higher because the population of bidders was different, and therefore the distribution of valuations changed, or can it really be the effect of mechanism? So in the lab, we very clearly have control over that with relatively less data. So a preview of results is that we find that both types of feedback increase auction price. The effect is stronger for charity feedback. We find that both types of feedback lead to more diverse choices of charities. I'm going to explain what this means. Every round, subjects can choose a different charity. Sometimes they stick with only the same charity. In treatments, particularly in charity feedback, they are more diverse. They choose different charities. Charity feedback treatment leads to more aggressive bidding. And what we also do, after they completed auction rounds, we give them an option to donate money to charities. So they see the same charity selection list that they see in the beginning of every auction round. And then we just ask, so these are your experimental earnings. would you like to just donate, essentially give up some of your earnings and donate to this charity? And we are very clear there is a confirmation screen. If they choose some amount, that we report back to them now their current reduced earnings. So they understand that by doing this, they confirm their own cash pay from the experiment is going down. So this happens after auction. So what we find is the treatment effects, so here we're still working on the analysis, that post-auction donations are largest in charity feedback and actually lowest compared to control treatment and subject feedback treatment. So the auction that we employ is independent value first price sealed bid auction. Subjects are divided into groups of 4. A separate auction is conducted for each group in each round. Auctions are groups randomly rematched every round. Each bidder independently draws a value from 0 to 700 cents. Any value in between is equally likely, uniform distribution. Each bidder learns their value. If there is any feedback, depending on the treatment, they observe this current standing feedback, and they submit a bid. The item is sold to the highest bidder, who pays the price equal to his or her bid. The profit to the winner of the auction is value minus price. The winner also raises the amount equal to half of auction price for the charity of his or her choice that round, independently from private earnings. And we are also very clear about that. They know that their charity donations that they raise is independent from their cash earnings for the auction. Other bidders earn 0 and raise 0. And this is happening for 25 rounds, followed by donation stage. So this is briefly experimental design. We have control treatment with the same charity choice, the same structure, but no feedback at all. We have charity feedback. In the beginning of every round, they see current standing ranked from highest to lowest in raised contributions. And we also have subject feedback where they see individual top donation levels up to that point. So it's updated every round. And we ran 2 sessions for each treatment. The list of charities that we used was American Cancer Society, American Red Cross, Humane Society of the United States, Make-A-Wish America, and Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. So we also read, I'm not going to go over the details, but we chose a paragraph from charitynavigator.org and read a paragraph to them about each charity. There was also a 6th option, which was no charity option. So if they didn't want to choose a charity, they always had an option to choose the 6th option, no charity. And some subjects did that. This is the sequence of decisions. In the beginning of every round, each subject chooses a charity from the list or the no charity option. So this is how the screen looked. Then they had a confirmation screen. The charities were listed alphabetically, and we also were very clear about that. After they choose a charity, they would see an auction bid screen, just for illustration. So this is how the screen would look for feedback, charity feedback. If there is no feedback, the top table wouldn't exist. But you can see this is the current standing rank from highest total donations to lowest of all 5 charities. Then subjects see their current balance, their total charity contributions up to that point, and they are given auction parameters. They know their value, they place a bid, and this is a standard auction. So after the end of every auction, we show them whether they obtained the item. They are given their value, their bid, the highest bid in their group's auction price, which is also half of that went to charities. Their earnings this round, their balance, and also we give them their contribution to charity this round and their total contribution to charity so far. This actually ensures that in treatments with no feedback, all subjects know their own information. And after 25 rounds have completed, again, they choose charity before every round. Subjects, again, they enter the donation stage. The donation stage is explained. Then they choose a charity for the donation stage. And after they chose a charity, they put the amount. So these subjects chose RAIN. They confirm it. When they confirm it, they see their updated balance, which is reduced from their previous balance, and their donation. So there is no mistake that they understand that by making a donation, they're giving up some of their cash earnings for the sake of the charity. Just very briefly, and the color scheme will be the same. The red refers to control treatment, blue charity feedback, subject feedback. Both treatments, there were over $400 raised for each of the treatment conditions, and about $300 for control treatment. And the scale on the graphs is the same, but just to show the relative change in the treatment effect, while both types of treatments increased auction donations, which again shows that it's a good idea to increase some competition because it seems to work. The effect on post-auction stage donation is very different. This is the control treatment. The charity feedback brought them down, and the subject feedback brought them up. Subject feedback treatment brought them down. So auction price, as I mentioned, both treatments led to increase in auction price. And in terms of donations compared to the control treatment, in charity feedback they went up, and in subject feedback they went down. And notice that it is not to compensate for lower auction contributions. Because in charity feedback, total charity contributions were the highest as well. So it is not that they raised low and they're trying to compensate. If anything, it's the opposite, actually, that if they form some inertia to donate more during auctions, they keep donating more. So this is the distribution. I mean, this mainly says that in every treatment, subjects chose all charities. It's just a distribution of how many subjects chose a particular charity. We didn't have a favorite that everyone chooses just one charity. All charities got chosen, as well as you can see no charity option. About 10% of subjects, 10% of choices are no charity choices. So first I'll talk about charity choice that they choose every round. Then I'll talk about auction performance and bidding behavior, and then about the donation stage. On average, subjects are very consistent with their charity choice. If they like the charity, they tend to choose the same charity over all rounds. So in a control treatment, the mean kind of number of charities chosen is 1.6. So most subjects choose single charity over all 25 rounds. This number increases, and statistically we know that in charity feedback we have the most diversity, statistically significant from control. And the same with subject feedback, slightly less significant, but still under 10%. So when we provide charity feedback, subjects are more diverse in their charity choices. They pick different charities to donate money to. And this is the distribution. The number of subjects who chose the same charity is about 70% of subjects chose the same charity across all rounds, which is significantly lower for charity treatment. So subjects started choosing different charities. And that is our main result, is that without feedback for charity choice, subjects stick to only one charity. When they have feedback, they start diversifying more. Auction behavior, the price is significantly high in both feedback treatments. Again, it is statistically significant. Between treatments, we don't have statistical significance. So both treatments lead to increase in auction price. In terms of bidding behavior, we can see that compared to control treatment, the slope with charity changes significantly, and it is statistically significant too, that in charity feedback treatment, subjects bid more aggressively. And this effect is stronger than in subject feedback, where significance is only under 10% level. In a donation stage, what we can see here is the highest donation levels happened in charity feedback, which also raised most contributions during auction stage. And when we try to kind of dig deeper about what's happening here, what we can see is there are a lot of zeros here. Only about well, from 19 to 29, 20-some% of subjects chose to donate money in donation stage, which is in fact still higher than we expected when we added it. So about 20% of subjects, when the experiment is over, give up their cash earnings for spending an hour and a half in a lab and just donate them to charities. So on average, because they're out of zeros, there is not much difference here. But so when we look at the average of donating subjects, then charity feedback treatment, it went up. Subject feedback treatment, it went down. There is a lot of noise. So actually, there is not quite statistical significance, about 0.2. But we are thinking of getting more data to see if that's the artifact of not enough data or if there is a treatment effect. But it looks pretty strong quantitatively. So what is driving the donations? When subjects approach the end of the experiment, what makes them give up some of their cash earnings and donate? So we are kind of still working on the analysis here, but this is a rough correlation coefficient on subjects' total donation. So what we find is that in charity feedback, there is really not much correlation between how much subjects raised in the auction stage and how they donated. So in no feedback treatment, actually, subjects who raised a lot during auctions, they donate more during donation stage. So it almost feels like giving and knowing that you raised money creates some warm glow, and the subject continues giving. So there is kind of inertia in giving. A subject knows that they raised a lot of money for a given charity. Donation stage comes, they give up more money. And in subject feedback treatment, notice that this is they see top individual contributions. So we could have conjectured, and again, it affected their bidding behavior. So in bidding stage, they seem to compete and be more competitive and aggressive with each other and raise more money. Potentially, the intuition for donation stage would be that now they have this final chance to affect their ranking by donation kind of bring up. And the reverse happens. So subjects who were already high, and both of these show the same effect. If a subject donated more money through auctions, they donate less in the donation stage. And that means if before the donation stage, subjects have higher rank, means that they are lower on the ranking list. Lowest rank is 1. So the lower ranked they are, the less they seem to donate. So they move in the same direction. So subjects who already donated, through auctions, they don't donate much. So let me just, for the sake of time, skip that and conclude. So we designed and implemented 2 feedback schemes to a charity auction. The 2 feedback schemes that we implemented, one was charity feedback, where subjects every round are reported current standings in donations raised by each charity, and a subject feedback, where every round subjects see the top individual contributions to charities. What we find is, compared to control treatment, both types of feedback lead to more aggressive bidding. They lead to higher auction price. So we would encourage to do this in the field. That some competition between charities, and I think it's if a subject sees that their charity didn't win, they seem more eager to be more active and make sure that it's their charity that wins and not something else. So this seems to kind of stimulate more aggressive behavior and raising behavior on behalf of subjects. Both types of feedback also lead to more diverse choices of charities, which is also, we find interesting, that if subjects see how much money different charities have raised, they seem to care. So they have some ranking, and they seem to care that either all charities raise or that their charity is more competitive. We haven't looked in the details, but it does affect their behavior. Post-auction donations are largest in charity feedback and lowest in subject feedback. And we find that in no feedback control treatment, subjects who raised more money through auctions seem to donate more. Again, it seems that if subjects develop some warm glow from giving through auctions, they keep giving. But when they see their ranking in subject feedback, the effect is reverse. Now, if they already donated a lot in auctions, they don't want. It's almost like they feel, once they feel they got credit and they got evaluated for that and they're already on top of the list, they don't seem to give as much. So that's all that I have to say now for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.